So today we're learning Hechaltzu, Perek Yud. It's almost 1/3 of the Sefer, chapter 10. Let's first recap, page 73. The chptr of Ois Tes. Let's look at the chptr. Chptr. Sinas Chinam, Mevi, She'eina Mishtatev B'simchas Chaveirev V'tzarei. When a person has baseless hatred, Sinas Chinam, he doesn't participate in the other person's simcha and the other person's agony. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't get to Chaim Zev's wedding if you can't, because it's in America. It doesn't mean you're not his friend. There are situations where you can't participate. It doesn't mean you have chas v'sholom sinas chinam. What we mean is that when you hear that he made a shidduch for his son, are you happy? Do you feel happy? Or do you just are indifferent? That's a sign there's something inside that's not good. Or chas v'sholom, if there's a person who has tsar, whatever that tsar is, agony, suffering, and again, you're totally indifferent, that shows that there's something inside you, which he calls here sinas chinam. Then we learned liyesudei atzma yochel limtzoi tam. A person, regarding their own tsaros, their own torture, their own punishment, their own suffering, the Gemara says, it's a Gemara, it's not Chassidus, yifashish b'maisav, you have to check yourself out and basically blame yourself. The English word is not a great word, but find something that within yourself that you're not doing the way you should be doing it, and that could quite well be the cause. We don't know. Do we know for sure? No. But we have what to look at. So that's all about justifying your own agony. Mashenkin, conversely, when it comes to someone else's agony, you have to always be meritorious. And we had a good discussion about this yesterday. Now let's go on to Perek Yud. And here the Rebbe talks about the same issue, Velvel, but regarding Loim de Torah and Oiv de Hashem. And as we know from other Maimorim of the Rebbe Rashab and the Rabbeim, that this was a major theme of theirs, because they were surrounded by different kind of Yidden, and it's not just that the Rebbe is looking at Litfax. He's looking at his own Hasidim, because this entire Maimer Hechaltzu was addressed and caused by his own Hasidim. Okay, so someone shouldn't say, the Rebbe is pointing fingers at the Litfax. He's pointing fingers at himself and at his Hasidim too. But nevertheless, you have to understand the greater situation. So, for example, the Frierdiker Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, when he was in Riga, in Latvia, and you take a look at the discourses that he said over the years that he was there, and he was there from 1928 to 1933, I believe, traveling different places, America, Israel, but that was his home. You'll see that he talks about issues that were relevant to Riga Jews, which were more on the Yekish side, even though Riga is technically Latvia, but there was an influence of that type of mentality, and both in the things that needed correction and also in things that are positive, their meticulousness, Then when he comes to Poland, the previous Rebbe, in 1933, he's there till 39, to the war. You take a look at the discourses over those 6 years, and you could see kind of a pattern of a certain type of message. Because he's addressing people in Poland. People in Poland, Ger Hasidim and Alexander and Amshel Hasidim were big spodiks and payas. They're not Yekas at all. It's another type of crowd. And so, again, I'm not going to tell you that we can pinpoint every single mimer. I can't. I don't think anyone can. But as a general rule, I think you could see this. So, the Rebbe Rashab, I also noticed, certain Maimorim, he hones in on a certain element. Again, I would say most of the Rashab's Maimorim are very deep and intellectual, and it's Divili Kim Chaim, it's godly words, it's Chassidus, you know. Like I told you several weeks ago, that the way that Rashab many times started a Maimon was L'haven Inyan, to understand the concept of Tzimtzum. He didn't begin with a pasuk in the Parsha. He wasn't a rabbi giving a sermon, or a Chabad house rabbi, or a Rav of a shul saying, it's Parshas, Nitzavim de Shabbos, and how does this apply to our life, and give a sermon on Nitzavim. That's not what the Rashab did. He started off saying Chassidus. There was a concept of godliness that he was studying, a concept of godliness that he felt the world needs, and this, or it went through him, whether he felt it or he didn't feel it, regardless. And he revealed it and he said it. Right? And that's why there were times that there was no Divrei HaMaschil. There was no beginning and end, like, you know, Atem Nitzavim Hayoim is the beginning of the Maimer, and at the end, there's the answers to the questions on Atem Nitzavim. That's not the way. I'm not saying it was never that way, but plenty of times it wasn't that way. Because a Maimer Chassidus is a likus. And this, if you understand this better, it's a whole different level. It's not a drasha. A Maimach Chassidus is you're being taken into the apple of the Rebbe's eye, and the Rebbe is being taken into the apple of God's eye. You're in heaven. When you hear a drasha, you're not in heaven. I don't care if it's a Godel, a Rebbe, or it's down to earth. That's the difference between a sicha that the Rebbe gave, and a Maimer. A Maimer is a likus. This is the belief in Chabad. That the Eibishter inspires the tzaddik, and to the point where he lets out words that are revealing a certain godliness into the world at that time. So overall, this is true for a Maimach Chassidus of a Chabad Rebbe. But there were times where you could see that the Rashab honed in on certain issues. And this is one of those Maimurim. Because over here in yesterday's chapter, remember what he said? He spoke about, you remember, the Sheikhtim? He said it. And the Rabbonim. So he's clearly identifying issues in the community, arguments between the Sheikhtim, the Shochtim, the Rabbonim, the Balabatim. So that Velvel is not, that's not heavenly, that's very down to earth. So this is this type of a Maimer, Hechaltzu. So now he goes to this topic of dealing with those that feel themselves very, very holy. How? Because they learn, and they daven, and they're very, very, connected, they feel. But the Rebbe says, what's with your Avos Yisrael? Let's learn inside. Perek Yud, chapter 10. Hine 74, if you have the book. You will find more. Look what he says here, Isser. He adds the word beyoser. He didn't have to add the word b'yoser. B'yoser means even more so. The more holy and the more long your payas are, the more you can have sinas chinam. You got it? Well, due to our avedas, in other words, unfortunately, but Seinu Rabin in English would be unfortunately. But if the Hashem, by those that serve Hashem, every single person, I love it. He builds a bama. You know what a bama is? A bama is a pile of stones. He builds a structure. I am the holy guy. You know, he raises the small little stones and he builds a whole pile. It's called bama la'atzmai.
The head honcho.
Yeah. And he creates a whole philosophy and details and a whole system. Hey, whether it be the study of Torah, it's based on his understanding, and it has to be this way. So he creates a method in Torah, but it's sichloi v'daitoi. He serves Hashem, but it's based on chochmasoi, his comprehension and understanding. Causing that he doesn't unite with the other guy in Beis Medrash. Now, let me make it clear. We're not talking about here, a Chavrusa's learning, and Velvel understands it one way, Yoini understands it another way. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about where one individual comes to a conclusion, I know it, I understand it, and it's only my way of understanding. That's what we're talking about. And therefore, he doesn't give room for the other person in the Beis Medrash, in the study hall, etc. Says that Rashab, the truth is that a primary foundational truth when it comes to learning Torah and serving Hashem, she is chabru v'yadabru zeh zeh. You hear this, chevra? You got to talk with each other. Chavrusas. You got to join with each other. How do you understand this? What do you think about this? Do you think it's a genuine feeling or it's bluff? When's the last time you've heard two people speak about the service of God? Is it on target or is it bluff? That's what we're talking about over here. And this was, by the way, a klal, not just in Chabad, but in all Chassidim, was called the brotherhood, the Bruderschaft, the brotherliness. I didn't want to say lahavdil, but like in a Reformed temple, I know from when I came to Marin County, and there were some former Reform people who belonged to a Reformed temple, and they came to Chabad, they had a club, a brotherhood, right? A brotherhood. There's the sisterhood and the brotherhood. Guess what?
Oh, the men's club.
The men's club.
The men's club.
Yeah. Sometimes they call it brotherhood, sometimes men's club, whatever. But the truth is, that's what the Rashab is saying here. That's what should be between Yidden. They should feel brotherly to each other. And if you feel brotherly, you discuss what's going on. I had a good, I'm having a difficulty in this area, in that area. Really, today we would call this talking to a mashpia, a madrich, a guide. But with the Rashab here, he's not putting on, any names. He's just saying two people. You know each other. You daven in the same shul. You learn the same Beis Medrash. Talk with each other. Talk it out. That's the point here. V'heim b'isik ha'Torah halei barzel b'barzel yachad. There is an expression that iron sharpens iron. So does one person sharpen the mind of the other person when they bounce things off each other. So it's not a competition, or I'm afraid to tell him my chiddush. Fool! If you share your chiddush, if you share your novelty and insight, He'll hear it and he'll either say it makes sense, it doesn't make sense, maybe tweak it this way, maybe, you know what I'm saying? So it's like one piece of iron sharpens the other piece of iron. Continuing, he says, because when you bounce something off the other person, you will not be able to include, oh, my opinion, my understanding is the emes. Oh, really? You got to prove it's the emes. So when you share it with someone else and the person challenges you, or then you can come to a real emes versus just coming to making your own conclusion and not sharing it. That's what he says here. And when you hear the opinion of your friend, and they discuss the word pilpul, dissertation, they go back and forth in argumentation, in understanding. It's called pilpul with truth, not shtuyot. We're talking about each one is trying to understand it, and they're dialoguing. Then you come to the truth. You come to understanding it correctly. Okay? So the Rebbe Rashab is teaching us here, don't think that you come to the true conclusions just concluding it yourself. Rather, when will you come to the right conclusion? Chaim Zev, when you share and you dialogue and you argue it out and you talk it out with someone else. That's what he says. This was said regarding the study of Torah. So too regarding service of Hashem. The two people reveal to each other what's on their heart, and they talk about it. What's on their heart, not about, yesterday's supper. I mean, listen, if you don't have supper, that's also a problem. We're talking about Nigi Hashem. My father, Kadei Naharis, so I went to see him the other day. So he told me that he davens in 770 upstairs outside of the Rebbe's room on Shabbos, because he has a bench over there so you can sit on the bench. He's 88, Knei Nahar. So he was talking to someone and he said, it's the Yemei Slichas. Are you doing tshuva? And the guy looks at him like, it's like, here is not the time to talk about these things. Here we have to daven. My father doesn't let go. And he says, look at me. He says, I'm 88. He says, I think about tshuva. And he says, I don't know. He says, I pretty much, he's by himself. My mother passed away 18 years ago. Yeah, he has grandchildren to come in to say hello, ba-ba. But pretty much he's on his own. So he says, he doesn't have a wife. He's 88. He says, generally, he doesn't have inappropriate thoughts. He's talking to this guy. He's talking to this probably 30, 40-year-old, And I was thinking about it as he was telling me this. Like, this is what the Rebbe is talking about here. Medabrim zeh mizeh. Now, by the way, it doesn't mean you should talk to anyone and everyone. No, we're talking about someone you have an affinity, you have a relationship, you can have a relationship. This was an important thing in Yiddishkeit and the Chassidus for sure. The idea of talking with each other about nigei levov. Nigei means the plagues of the heart, the maladies of the heart, meaning the issues in avodas Hashem. Back to the text, there are many good details. There are many good details that Rebbe is now going to say why you should talk out your maladies that are bothering you in your heart regarding your avodas Hashem to another person. Aleph, one. Sheyesh kama dvorim she'enim moitzoim ba'atzmai. There are many things that a person doesn't realize themselves. He says in Yiddish, chapt sich nit allein. Chapt means grab, but in this context it means he himself doesn't realize. He doesn't get it. He doesn't find it. Mitzad avos atzmai, self-love covers everything. He doesn't find it in himself. Dal kol pshoyim chasa'ava. Over all iniquity, over all sin, love covers up. Right? Self-love dulls the sensitivity. Surely, self-love covers up all faults. And the faults are, in this case, character traits. And justifying why you behave this way and why you have such a character. Why? Because you find justification. The love that a person has for himself by nature covers up the faults. But when you talk it out to a friend, the other person will say, hey chap, and I'll say, wait a second here, there's an issue here. That's one advantage to talking to another person, because you yourself cover it up by nature. It's natural. Al kol psoyim avas atzmai, self-love covers up, justifies what we do. But the other person is the other person. So he doesn't have that avas atzmai that you have in this situation, and he will tell you you're making a wrong turn. You need to correct this. That's number one. Point number two, why it's important to talk out the issues to someone else. When you reveal the issues of the heart, b'dibur, in speaking it out in words, while during the time when you're actually speaking it out, saying it, you have great agony. Much more that you had before. So this point, Hillel, is, let's say you do realize your shortcomings, your faults, but it doesn't touch you as deeply when you just think about it. But when you talk it out to someone else, and you're talking with sense, not just, mimicking words, it's going to hurt you more inside. And it's going to hurt you in the sense that, hey, so you'll take it in a much more serious way. So the Rebbe's second point is that the actual dibur is constructive, is helpful to deal with the malady. That's the second point. And when you feel the greater tsar of the issue at hand, you will have more regret. I'll call it on all the things that are no good. And you will remove your desire to continue in that vein. This will cause that there'll be a great amount of tikkun. He doesn't say that it'll be completely eliminated, but he says it will really make a big difference in the tikkun, in the process of tshuva, of refining, of correcting the issue. This is the concept we're coming up to Yom Kippur, al chet, vidu dvarim, a confession of words. The Rebbe Rashab says kiyadua. When he says kiyadua, it means it's an inyan that's brought in Chazal and in Kabbalah. There's a great tikkun for our nefesh when we specify in words the particular transgression. Now you understand, Chevra, why we're banging away al chet 5 times, and again during the silent minute. It's not just, we have nothing to do to bang away. It's like absurd. Each time you say the al-chait, and again, as long as you know what you're saying, it's simply al-chait shechotonu in this way. We're not talking about Kabbalah now. That itself, saying the words, and I know that this is true because I've tried it. When you say those words and you think about what you're saying on a very rudimentary level, it's helpful. It's therapeutic. It really is. Again, how long does it last? Not long, because you get another al-chait just a few pages down. But that's the concept. So the Rebbe says that talking out the malady that in Avodas Hashem to your friend, b'dibur, is a confession in words which helps the tikkun of the issue that needs to be corrected. And the Rebbe says, why is this? Because when it comes into words, then it shows that it's relevant to you. In Yiddish, es riert on. Riert means touches. It touches you deeply. How do you know? Because you've been talking about it. When you talk about something, it shows that you're fully animated. It's touched you. It really means something to you. Whereas when it's a machshava in your own thought, it's very nice, but it hasn't yet touched you deeply. When it comes out, b'dibur, especially when it comes out b'dibur to another person, boy, did you show that you touched you. You're so pained that you're even willing to share with someone else. And this, of course, is difficult. This is a very difficult avodah. A lot of people, I shouldn't say it, but all of us, in different times, we can't do this. We fail to do this. Now, many times we'll justify, say, what, I should go share my private issues with the person here. Well, we nod our heads in shul, and we didn't bet, there's the difference between a childhood, teenhood, a school friend, and someone who you meet later in life. That's what I find. With my chaveda, my buddies, we could talk about anything and say anything because we grew up together. Those that are, plenty of fine people and all of that, but it's a different level. At least this is the way we were taught in the Chabad yeshiva system. Is this like, this Bruderschaft, as I mentioned, this brotherliness, and it's a whole different realm. But the Rebbe is not, making distinctions between this yeshiva and that yeshiva. He's just talking about the idea, the importance of talking out issues to another person. And he says, then it shows that the issue at hand really touches the inner core of your soul. Showing that you have great pain, and you regret it. An example of this, the Rebbe says, what it says, Shlomo HaMelech says, a person, when you have an anxiety, a worry, yesichena. Literally it means what? You should divert your attention. The Omar Azal, come along the Chazal and say, yesichena lachedim, because it's with a yesichena Hillel with a sin. From the word by Yitzchak went out, lo suach basode, to talk, or the famous word in Chabad, a sicha. The Rebbe says a sicha, a talk. That's with a sin. To divert would be technically with a samach, lahasiach daitoi, to divert your thoughts from dababa. So Shlomo HaMelech says, so the meaning is that when a person has an anxiety, divert it, put it aside. But it's not written with a samach, it's written with a sin, say the Chazal. Talk it out to other people. And when you talk it out to other people, that itself will help you divert the thought. The anxiety will be lessened, will be you'll be able to deal with it. We see when a person speaks about something that's very painful to him, it causes a greater sense of agony in themselves. So, 1 second. So what's the Rebbe's point here? Chaver, listen. So the Rebbe's saying, hey, why do you want to pain yourself more? If by me talking this out to you, it's going to bring up issues for me. Here with this, no, Hillel, this is not psychology. It's going to bring up issues for me. And I'm going to be feel more guilty. Why should I do it? Says the Rebbe the next page 78. Afterwards, it'll be in Yiddish, es wird em besser. It'll become lighter. Yes. Initially, go ahead.
I just want to say I used this quote from the Chazal on my website.
Excellent. So initially, it's more difficult. It's more painful when you have to talk about the maladies and the issues. The therapy, right? Talk it out. It's hard. You don't, but when you do, you walk away with, got it off my chest. Chevra will continue tomorrow, but this is
Good stuff.
good stuff. Hillel, you got credit for pushing me to learn this mimer. Take care. See everyone tomorrow. Bye-bye. Have a great day. Great day. Bye-bye.